Okay, so we've switched over to our lab environment for the first time. This is our pfslab.local domain. This is the member server. There's three servers: a domain controller, a member server, and exchange server, and they're all in the Amazon EC2 environment. In case you were wondering, this particular member server is a T2 micro, so it's not very beefy, which means that it might be a little slow, but I've actually found that it runs fine. We're running 2012 R2, by the way. Okay, so the first thing let's do is let's go into the admin portal for Office 365. It's portal.office.com. Let's go ahead and it was AJD admin 365 at pfslab01.on Microsoft.com. Okay. Excuse the loud typing. And we'll jump into the admin center for a minute. We'll go down to settings and services and add-ins and Office software download settings. Now again, this only affects the software settings for what's downloaded. Changing this will not affect any installs that have already taken place. But we have this here that it's set to every 4 months, which is the deferred channel, so that's fine. And if we come down to release preferences, we see it's standard. So that's how it's normally set, which is deferred standard, which is fine. I'm going to create a new user because I want this test to be done with a regular user, not this admin account. But what I want to do is I want to distinguish them. So we'll change this admin account that we've created, and we'll just call this, we'll change the first name to AD admin, and we'll change the display name to AD admin. You know what? I'll try to make it standard the way we've been doing our naming conventions. 365. We'll save that. So we'll change the first name and display name, so now it looks as if it's an admin account. And we'll create a new user. Okay, and we'll just make this a personal account. Adam Dreyer, display name fine. We'll call this one A Dreyer. We'll set the location here. I don't want the password auto-generated. I'm going to specify it right now. And, oops. I'm also not going to require the user to change this password. And I'm going to let it provision with the Enterprise E3 licenses, which is fine. I'm not going to issue it any administrator roles right now. Chrome doesn't need to save that. And we're not going to send the password in an email to anybody. Okay. So now I've got this user account here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the release preferences again. And I am going to say first released for selected users. And it's going to say, are you sure you want to change? Yes, I'm sure. It's going to give me an option to add certain people. And I'll pick the account we just created, Adam Dreyer. Notice before when I changed the first name and the display name, it didn't actually change the user principal name or the login name. So I still have the AJD admin 365 as the login for that admin account, that initial global admin, and I created one called A Dreyer, which is what we're working with now. So now we're creating we're moving A Dreyer into the first release program for deferred, right? Because we have the whole tenant set to deferred, and now we have A Dreyer set to first release. Now, if I log out, and we shall log in as A Dreyer. Okay, so A Dreyer at pfslab01.onmicrosoft.com. We should be able to download Office, and it's going to tell us that it's in the first release for deferred programs. Now, I just clicked on other. Let me go back for a second and show you. If you if you're curious to know what's going to be installed, what you can do is if you click on other installs, it'll tell you exactly what channel you're in. So it says here, your admin has enabled first release, so you get early access to the latest Office features. Now, it doesn't mention that it's the first release for deferred, but that's what it's going to be. So we can install right here, but normally people come in and they'll just go ahead and click the install right here. So it's going to say click run once it's finished downloading. It's already finished. So we'll go ahead and run this. And now it's going to install. This can be done silently if you use the Office deployment tool, so you won't have to see any of these dialog boxes, and that way you can deploy silently to your users. In the meantime, let's go ahead and download the administrative template so you can see what the GPO looks like. Okay. Let's say Office 2016 admin template for Office 2000 download, actually. Sorry, a little repetitive right there, but that's okay. Google will find it. I have faith. And you can tell I've already been here before, but that's okay. We're going to download this 64-bit and the 32-bit. Let's grab them both. Yes, that's fine. And I'm actually going to transfer these to the domain controller, and we're going to do the group policy edit on the domain controller just to make sure we're doing everything the way it normally would be done. Although I could install the administrative tools for Active Directory on this member server and manage it that way. But okay, let's jump over to the domain controller. And I'm going to go browse to the administrative share for the member server. Okay, we'll go into users. I was logged in as A. Dreyer, and downloads. There's our two guys right there. Bring them over to here. Okay. I'm only going to run the 86 one right now. Most of the Office installs are 86 installs or 32-bit installs. Even Microsoft doesn't recommend using the 64-bit install unless you absolutely have to. So I'm going to make a new folder on the desktop to extract these two, and we'll call this admin template 32. Okay. And so here we go. And basically what this is going to be is it's going to be ADMX files, and then inside each of these is a language-specific files, ADML. We need to copy both of these into particular folders, and I'll show you where that is in a second. But first, let's go into the group policy setting. I have here this you know what? Let me delete this. Okay, so first let's jump into the group policy management editor, and we see we have here that only the default domain policy. So I'm going to create a new policy. We'll call this Office 365 update settings. We'll leave it applicable to the entire domain. We're only going to be editing the computer portion of it. Under computer portion policies and administrative templates, you can see we don't have an admin template right now for Office. But once we copy these ADMX and ADML files into the right folder, that will appear. So let's go ahead and do that. And the folder we're going to copy them into is in the system root, which in this case is C Windows, policy definitions. So here's where all the ADMX or administrative templates are. We might as well just copy them all in. Okay. Copy here. Yeah, that's fine. And then in the language-specific folder, we're going to do the same thing. We'll copy these ADML files into the language-specific folder. Yep. All right, that's it. So now if we were to, let's close this GPO and then go back in. we'll see that now under computer configuration, we have a Microsoft Office 2016 template here. And if we go into the Microsoft Office updates folder, we have all these options we could set and push through group policy. We're mostly concerned with this update channel here. And unfortunately, when you enable it, it makes you type in a value. So this is something that's going to be set in the registry. Actually, this group policy is going to set the registry entry for the client computers, but it's not a drop-down. You have to know what the registry value you're setting is. And we will get to that in a second. But for now, let's see if we are still, we're still installing Office here. So that's going to be a few more minutes. We're back on the member server, by the way. And I'm sorry I'm going fast. I don't want to make this lesson too long, and the specifics aren't that important as long as you can understand what's happening. I'm just kind of doing this as a proof of concept. So you know what? Let's go take a look at the registry. So we'll go into regedit. Yep, that's what I want. And this is I was here before, but it's in HKey local machine, software, policies, Microsoft, Office 16, common, Office update. And this is in that slide, right? We talked about that as being the registry path. And to be honest, this registry path normally wouldn't be there. I only added it manually before this demo. But normally you wouldn't even have an Office or 16.0 if you weren't pushing any policies or making any registry changes. Now I could just come in here and create a new string value, but what I want to demonstrate is that the GPO policy set on the domain controller will push the registry value, and then that in turn will affect the update channel for the software for Microsoft Office. But we have to wait for it to finish its installation first. So I'm going to pause it, and I'll be back in just a minute or two. Okay, so that installation finished. Not too shabby for a T2 Micro. I mean, just to kind of show you what's going on here. Oops. This particular computer, it's only got 1 gig of memory, so and 1 CPU. So 1 CPU, 1 gig of memory. It's pretty responsive. But anyway, just let's take one more refresh of this to show you there's nothing in this particular registry key, but we do have now the Office programs. So let's go ahead and run Excel. I always use Excel. I'm not sure why, but if you come into any of these applications, we'll open a blank worksheet for now. And we'll come into File and Account. Make sure that it lists the right user. And as you can see here, we're in first release for deferred channel, which is what we want to be in. Okay, so that was set because we changed the download preferences in the portal, and so that was what the initial install was. Now, if we went in and we were to change the first release or the deferred channel, nothing we changed in the portal will affect this installation. As of now, the only thing that will affect its installation is the registry setting, which we're now going to push with the group policy. So I'm going to jump back to my, just to show you, we'll check for updates now. It says you're up to date. Okay, so let's go back to the group policy manager. Now I'm going to say, okay, in this update channel, we're going to change this to current and apply. That's one of the acceptable values. Okay. So now let's come back to here. I'm just going to go ahead and force an update just to be 100% sure. We'll do a GP update. We'll target just the computer portion. And we'll do a force. Should only take a few seconds. Okay, so now the domain controller, the group policy for the domain has pushed down a registry setting, which we can verify by coming back here and saying view refresh. See, now update branch is set to current. That was done by group policy. And now we're going to change it one more time to first release current. Okay, we'll jump back here. I have to do a policy update. And so now it's downloading Office updates. And what that signifies is that what we did worked. It's changed the channel because a registry entry is changed. So now what we're going to see is that it's going to show as Office Insider slow because we've changed to first release current. Okay, so it's telling us we need to save our work before it closes down Excel, which we don't have anything open anyway that we worry about. It's going to apply those updates. Should only take another 10 seconds or so. Okay, so it's done. And if we come back in, again, we should see it say Office Insider slow. Just taking another few seconds to open Excel the first time after applying the new updates. So we'll open a blank document. Okay. And we'll go to File, Account, and we're now first release for current, Office Insider slow. Okay. So we're good there. Now if we come back to the group policy, last thing we're going to do here, and we go ahead and say not configured. We'll come back and we'll give this one more group policy update. So it's essentially wiping out the registry entries that we have. This is going to now revert back to what the default was when it was installed, which was first release for deferred. Okay, we're back. It needs to close the apps again. That's usually a sign that it's only a few minutes away. Once the apps are closed, it runs for a few more seconds to update, and we're good to go. So we'll jump back into Excel, and we should see that this has reverted back to the first release for deferred. We'll open a blank document. Again, we'll just close this. We don't need anything here. File, Account, and first release for deferred, just like it was installed. So that's how you use group policy to modify an existing installation, and that's how you set the update settings for the initial download via the portal. We didn't go over the Office deployment tool, but know that there are XML settings in there that you could set, which will do exactly what we've shown here. And if you wanted to, you could go in and change the settings in the portal and then click the install button again, and it would overwrite the entire Office installation, including the new update settings. So that's another way to deploy it via the portal, changing the settings, and then you would have to go and redeploy that update. You'd have to go and redeploy Office again in its entirety. Okay, so that's it